Urban exploration was our way of breaking free from the monotony of suburban life. It was an escape, an adrenaline rush, and a shared passion. There were three of us: Alex, Jamie, and me. Each of us had our own quirks, our own reasons for venturing into forgotten urban places, and together we made the perfect team. Alex was the compulsive risk taker. He thrived on the unpredictable, the high stakes, whether it was betting on horse races or playing poker with anyone who would sit across from him. Alex loved the rush of gambling. He didn't always win, but that didn't bother him. For him, the thrill was in the gamble itself, the chance to defy the odds, to test his luck. Even though his losses often piled up, he'd shrug them off and dive right back in, convinced that the next bet would be the one that turned things around. The kind of guy who never learned his lesson. But that was what made him fun to be around. You never knew if he was about to win big or lose everything, and that uncertainty was infectious. Then there was Jamie. She was the opposite of Alex in many ways, careful, methodical, and smart. She was an experienced rock climber, and her precision and caution made her an invaluable member of the team. She was always the one to test the stability of rickety floors and ladders, to double-check safety harnesses before we ventured too far. She could scale anything, and with her gear always in tow, she'd map out the safest route through places others wouldn't dare go. Even if she was afraid, she wouldn't let it show. Her focus was always on the climb, on the next step, on keeping herself and the group safe. As for me, I was the enthusiast, the quiet observer who saw beauty in the decayed, the forgotten. Urban exploration was more than just a hobby. It was a way to connect with the past. Every crumbling building, every rusted piece of machinery was a story waiting to be uncovered. I loved capturing those stories through photos, documenting the places that time had left behind. I had an almost obsessive fascination with history, and there was something deeply satisfying about exploring these forgotten corners of the world. One evening, Alex came to us with a new lead. He'd overheard a conversation at the gym. A couple of guys were talking about the Dominion Theatre, a crumbling landmark in the city that was said to have a violent past. "This place has some history," Alex had said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Gang violence, some bloody ambush. 2 gang members killed by stabbing, and some innocent bystander got caught in the crossfire. And the movie that was playing when it all went down? A gangster film. What a creepy coincidence indeed." Jamie had raised an eyebrow. "Gang violence. Sounds like trouble." "Exactly," Alex grinned. "That's what makes it so perfect. A place with a dark history, just waiting to be explored. We have to go." "I don't know, man," Jamie had said, a hint of skepticism in her voice. "A place like that, who knows what kind of energy it's carrying? Some things are better left alone." But Alex was relentless. "Think about it. It's been abandoned for years. We can go in, explore, and make a killer video. The stories we'll have, it'll be epic." "I don't know," I said, glancing between them. "We've gone to places with darker histories before. Why should this be any different?" Jamie sighed, her usual practicality taking over. "Fine," she muttered, "but we're taking every precaution. I'm bringing my climbing gear. You know the drill." "Of course," Alex said with a wink. "Let's get our gears ready for this mission." The three of us packed up and met at my garage, where I kept all the gear we needed for these excursions. I pulled out some kindling and matches, just in case we needed to stay the night, or to light up a dark corner of the theatre. Alex grabbed the bolt cutters as usual, while Jamie packed her climbing ropes and carabiners. She was meticulous with her gear, always prepared for any challenge that might come our way. Alex's bolt cutters had a way of getting us into places we weren't supposed to go, while Jamie's climbing ropes were often our way out. We arrived at the Dominion Theatre just as night fell. The place was as imposing as Alex had promised. The rusted marquee, the broken windows, and the crumbling brick facade gave it an air of decay that felt almost alive. The doors, though locked and chained, weren't enough to keep us out. Alex made quick work of the chain with his bolt cutters, and we stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the remnants of the building's former grandeur could still be seen in the fading murals on the walls and the broken seats that lined the aisles. The lobby was eerily quiet, as if the place had been frozen in time. The further we ventured into the theatre, the more unsettling the silence became. Finally, we reached the main auditorium, and that's when we saw it, the old projector. It hummed quietly in the center of the room, casting a grainy black and white film onto the torn screen. The building was meant to be abandoned. Maybe the odd security guard still takes advantage of the old equipment to get themselves through the night shift, but we didn't find anyone else in there. The footage was strange, unsettling. There were 3 figures on the screen exploring an abandoned town, and they looked just like us. At first, it was a curious coincidence. The characters on the screen weren't doing exactly what we were doing. The Alex-like character was fumbling with an old, broken car. The Jamie-like character was climbing a rusted ladder, and the narrator-like character, me, was taking photos of the ghost town. It wasn't exactly the same, but the resemblance was uncanny. We laughed nervously at first, chalking it up to a bizarre coincidence. But as we watched, the coincidences became too precise to ignore. The next part of the film showed a coin flipping, landing with the character who resembled me in the movie, calling it right. The Alex-like character lost the bet in a coin flip between the two of us. The Alex-like character then fiddled with some money, checking his pocket for cash to pay my character for the coin flip he had just lost. At that exact moment, Alex pulled out his phone and checked his betting app. "Damn it," Alex muttered, rubbing his face with his hand. Lost the bet again. Horse race this time. I swear I should have known better than to bet on that underdog. Jamie raised an eyebrow. "You've been saying that after every race. Maybe it's time to take a break, huh?" Yeah, I'll get it next time," Alex said, his voice still upbeat, despite the loss. "This one was a long shot, but that's the thrill, right? Betting on the impossible." He shrugged, still unfazed. Jamie gave him a skeptical look. "I don't know, man. It's like you're addicted to the gamble more than the win." "I'm just playing the odds," Alex grinned. "Next time, I'll get it right. You'll see." We tried to brush this bizarre coincidence off, but the unease grew. "Guess I'm buying dinner then," I muttered with a half smile, even though the feeling in the air grew heavy. "Seems fair," Alex said with a shrug, but there was something more to his tone now, a nervous edge, as if the film was starting to unsettle him. We tried to shake it off, but the film seemed to be eerily following us. The Jamie-like character sneezed, a violent, uncontrollable fit. Jamie, sitting next to me, sniffed and rubbed her nose, and abruptly sneezed herself as well. "Uh-oh, looks like I'm catching something." I glanced at her. "Don't jinx us." But it didn't end there. The film showed the Alex-like character reaching out to touch a live wire, just as a strange buzzing filled the air. The wire cracked, sending a fatal shock through him. He fell, convulsing, and his body lay still. I felt my heart skip. I glanced over at Alex, who was already standing up, heading toward a buzzing light fixture on the stage. "Alex, no!" I shouted, but my voice was drowned out by the crackle of electricity as he reached for the wire. In the blink of an eye, Alex screamed. The air hummed with a sickening crack as he was electrocuted. His body jerked violently before crumpling to the ground, lifeless. He hit the floor with a sickening thud, his hands twitching in the final grotesque movements of a body still caught in the grip of electric shock. His back arched in spasms, his mouth gaping open in silent agony, his eyes wide and unblinking. For a brief moment, there was a faint smell of burnt flesh in the air. His body, now completely still, lay splayed out, unmoving in a crumpled heap. I rushed over, panic rising in my chest, but I knew it was too late. Alex was gone. The film showed the exact same thing, the Alex-like character lying dead on the ground, his body stiff and lifeless. This wasn't a coincidence. This just can't be. The reality of the situation began to set in. Terror gripped both Jamie and me, our eyes locked, wide with horror, as the film flickered on, showing Alex's lifeless body crumpled on the floor. It wasn't just a coincidence anymore, it was a warning. The film wasn't just showing us our fate, it was shaping it. My heart pounded in my chest, the sound of it ringing in my ears. I could see Jamie's hands trembling, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. She reached out to me, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're next. We're next." The realization hit like a punch to the gut. The film was more than just a film. It was alive, and it was controlling us. Whatever happened on that screen, we were bound to follow. And the longer we stayed here, the more certain our doom became. I could feel the walls closing in, the theatre alive with the buzz of something far worse than the film itself. Something beyond our understanding, something that could take us just like it had taken Alex. We tried to run, but the theatre wouldn't let us. The walls shifted, and to our horror and dismay, every door led back to the auditorium. We were trapped. Jamie, ever resourceful, grabbed her climbing gear. "I'll climb out. There's a window at the back. I can make it." But as the film showed, the Jamie-like character was climbing a ladder to escape an abandoned prison complex, only for the ladder to snap beneath her, sending her plummeting to the ground. "Jamie!" I shouted, but she was already halfway up. Her body moved with precision, the muscles in her legs and arms rippling as she scaled the wall toward a high window, carabiner clicking into place as she secured the rope. She reached for the window frame and hooked her carabiner onto the iron, preparing to make her escape. But as she began to climb out the window, the carabiner suddenly failed. The metal snapped under the weight, and Jamie lost her grip. "No!" I screamed as she fell. The world seemed to slow in that horrifying moment. She screamed as she tumbled, her body twisting in bewilderment and terror as she plummeted toward the concrete outside. The sound of her body hitting the ground was a sickening crunch, a thud that seemed to echo in the empty theatre. I rushed to the window, eyes wide in disbelief. Jamie's body lay twisted and mangled on the cold concrete outside, her limbs contorted at odd angles, blood pooling around her. Her neck was unnaturally bent, and her face was unrecognizable, bruised and broken. It was impossible to tell if she was even alive, but in my heart I knew she was gone. I was totally alone now, just myself and the film. The film played on, and I knew what would happen next. It would show the demise of my character, one way or another, which would be followed by my own death. If I waited just a bit longer, I would learn how I will die. But I couldn't wait. I had to stop it. I wanted to live. I grabbed the matches and kindling I had brought, rushing to the stage. I had to burn down the projection booth along with the projector inside. That cursed projector. I piled the broken seat cushions and stage curtains high, striking a match with trembling hands. The fire caught slowly at first, but then it spread, growing hotter and fiercer by the second. For a moment, I felt a rush of relief. I had done it. The projector's booth was burning, and the fire was slowing, creeping onto the projector. The film would stop. I had won. This was not my day to die. But then I looked at the screen. The flames, the fire, Mr. My character, consumed by the flames. The terror hit me like a freight train. It wasn't just the shock of seeing myself burn alive in front of me. It was the realization that everything had been set in motion from the very beginning. The film had known. The film had led me here. I had sealed my fate the moment I stepped into the theatre. My attempts to escape it, to fight it, had been in vain. I had thought I could outsmart it, but the film had already seen this, had already planned for it. I was just a puppet in its merciless hands. I froze in place, the weight of my own stupidity crashing down on me. It wasn't just the film that was alive. It was the theatre itself, the curse of it all. The whole place was feeding on us, pulling us deeper into its nightmare until we became part of the story. Soon enough, the whole theatre had caught fire. The walls were alive, crackling with heat. And in that moment, I realized the terrible truth. There was no escape. By the time you started reading this, the fire had long ago already claimed me. I tried every door, but they all led back to the auditorium. The outside world shimmered like a mirage. There was nothing I could do. Strangely enough, despite how ferocious the flames appeared to be, the walls and floorboard of the theatre did not disintegrate. They held together rather than being consumed by the flames, as if by some otherworldly force. Even as I was destined to perish in the fire, the theatre was here to stay. This was simply the final act of some screwed-up reality film. I collapsed to the ground, my hands weakly scrawling a final warning in the dust. Do not enter. The film is alive. It will claim you. As the fire engulfed the Dominion Theatre, the projector hummed on, the film playing its endless loop, as if nothing had happened. The theatre waited for its next victims. Here's my final message to you. Get out while you still can, before it's too late for you.